Hi everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Hinckley Rugby Roundtable. My name's Sean Phelan. Thank you all for watching again. Today we have got Hinckley RUFC, and we're going to tell you a little bit about what they do at their club and what the future looks like. And hopefully won't be too long for that future to sort of come about. So Ross, introduce yourself. We'll go around the table. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do within the club.
Yeah, hi Sean. So I've played for Hinckley all my life. I retired in 2014. Spent 2 years being an Alakadu there afterwards, and then more recently I've had the privilege, should we say, to join the committee. And I joined the committee this year just as COVID struck. So it's been hell of a baptism of fire. I kind of support the commercial and sponsorship side. So understanding how we keep it community-based, but also keeping the money coming in to run the club, which has been pretty much a challenge, an unprecedented challenge this year. And then, apart from that, family man, and enjoy the odd beer or two at the club when it's open.
Sounds good. Welcome to the panel. Neil, nice to meet you, sir. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name's Neil Parkinson. I'm Vice Chairman of Hinckley Rugby Club. Still playing in the vets. 2 kids playing in the mini juniors as well. Yeah, that's about me really. Vice Chairman of the club. Ropes into things like this. So
Nothing wrong with that. Chris, you're the one that pulled this team together for this chat. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I did. So yes, I'm head coach of the club. Been involved at Hinckley since 2012, and I'm also club's resident stats guru, spreadsheet organizer, and then the other job that requires some sort of computer organization to take place.
It's a very important job, the spreadsheet manager.
Yes, exactly.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. And Scott, nice to meet you, sir. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon. Scott Hamilton. I'm Director of Rugby at Hinckley. This was going to be my second year, but obviously things have not got off the ground. So I'm looking forward to next year. Obviously, I played at Hinckley I still sort of do technically when we're short, and then got into more of a coaching role and now Director of Rugby. So it's been a bit of a progression for me.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And finally, Liz, welcome to the round table. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role.
Hi, I'm Liz Corson. I'm the age grade chair down at Hinckley, which basically means any child playing rugby down at Hinckley Rugby Club, I'm responsible for. And when you've got 250 plus kids to try and get playing rugby, it is definitely a challenge and a half. I've been down the club for 10 years, I would say. So my eldest was 15 in September, so he started when he was 5 down there. Couldn't stand on the sidelines doing nothing. That's not my nature at all. So became like a team manager, and then ended up being the age grade chair for the club. So it's been, this last year has been interesting, shall we say?
Yeah, we'll get into that, I'm sure. So Neil, tell us a little bit about Hinckley. How many sides do you run? That type of thing.
We presently run 3 senior teams and vets in the Vets Cup, Leicestershire Vets Cup. We've got mini juniors all the way from 6s all the way through to Colts level. We've got a ladies section and girls section. We have touch rugby going on, and our latest edition is our walking rugby, which is going from strength to strength. We've got we run twice a week with that, so yeah, that's good. We're down on Leicester Road on the A47. We've got 4 full-size pitches, training area type thing, and also what we call our festival area, which is roughly the size of a pitch, but not quite marked out or anything like that. So we've got really good facilities, excellent clubhouse, can sit 300 down in for dinners, etc. when we can, obviously. So yeah, we've got good facilities, and we're always trying to improve them if we can.
Sounds great. Whereabouts was Hinckley? Did you say Leicestershire?
Leicestershire.
Brilliant. Okay. So Scott and Chris, tell us a little bit about the playing structure and how many players have you got, and what sort of leagues do you play in?
Scott, you're on mute.
Yes, the quote.
Should have learnt by now. Our first team plays in National 2 North, which may well change obviously next season with all the restructures that are going on. The year before I joined, they got promoted into National 2 North. So first of all, I suppose we consolidated there, and we've sort of traditionally been mid-table in that, but in that league. But the last couple of years we've done quite well. We finished third before COVID hit last time round. So sort of trending in the right direction. Obviously, we have a second team and a third team. Our second and team and first team train together on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so we have quite good numbers at training. Certainly in pre-season, we can have close to sort of in the 50s, late 50s. Chris will be able to tell you; he's got all the stats. And then obviously third team is a bit more social. They have a bit of a touch game and sort of probably look after themselves a little bit more, because that's where they want to be, just in a more of a social setting. Where there is, I think that's one of the attractions that took me to Hinckley as well, was that there is no sort of we try and minimise the first and second team divide. As I say, we all train together. When we're having socials and stuff like that, we're trying to make sure that the whole club's involved. So yeah, Chris will tell you exactly sort of where we are in terms of numbers.
Yeah, we've done a really good job, I think, as a club as a whole, of bucking the trend of falling participation within the adult game. When we were lining up our initial starter season fixtures, when we thought the season would start to close to normal-ish, we were penciling together two sides to maybe play against each other, with players still left over in the first and second team squad, which is tremendous. I don't think you'd find many other clubs who are able to do that at the moment, which then trickles down to the Hunters, to the third team. Helps to bolster the numbers there, because those sides continue to be absolutely crucial. You can't underestimate the role that top team below the first and second team squad plays in the long-term development of the club. But yeah, we were up until, when did we first stop? So when we kind of stopped training, when the second lockdown came in at the start of November, I think we've been averaging 52 players to training sessions, all the way through from the start of July. And that's bearing in mind we had players who obviously were isolating. We had players who couldn't travel. And even in December, when we started training again, and 20 of our squad members couldn't turn up, we were still getting close to 30 guys turning down to that. So we're in a really strong spot from a player base.
How do you go about recruiting players?
So that's sort of generally my role as well, but it's everyone's LinkedIn. I usually do it word of mouth, to be honest. We get it out there. I don't try to deal with too many agents and things like that. So, but it's just, we've got such a big network of players, and a lot of our players know players from clubs, and people know you play against different players each year, and word gets around. Chris is also head coach of Leicestershire last season, so that's quite helpful. So he's got a bit of a link into clubs as well. So we try and keep it as informal. I try and keep it as probably informal as possible. That's generally how we do it.
So if you're a new player come down to Hinckley, tell us a little bit about the experience that they might get, Ross.
Depends on which day you turn up. if you turn up on a Tuesday or a Thursday, obviously at the minute there's going to be nothing happening. But a usual Tuesday, Thursday, as Chris said, it's big training sessions, big squad numbers. We do have a kind of high standard of first team rugby, but there is a strong social culture, seconds, thirds, and vets, and that kind of blends into training too. And Chris and Scott manage that accordingly. They've got a good coaching staff, so you'll get put in the right pot, so as to not be the bag man, but also not be hurting yourself in training. And then if you turn up on a Saturday and play a game, you'll see probably outside of probably Tigers or something, one of the best full day spectacles of rugby, from pre-game luncheons. Kind of Argy mentioned it. Our home games are probably a bit of a thing of legacy. We get 300 plus sat down for a full serve roast dinner. That's the lifeblood of the club. So if you're injured, and the injured list does grow and grow, if it's a wet cold day on the pitch, there's a lot of people that are injured. You'll see a lot of people sat down at dinner. Sponsors, local businesses, youth sections, mini and junior sections. It is a hive of activity. We've been lucky enough to get some famous people through the door. When we were in the new club, Argy, what year was it? Eddie Jones came down.
That was 2016, September 2016.
Yeah, September 2016. We're fortunate enough, being in Leicestershire and kind of the heritage of Tigers, we get to call on some famous names. We managed to get Eddie Jones come down to help open the club, and yeah, he was pretty blown away by it. And that's the lifeblood of really what kind of Hinckley is. It's the combination of kind of high performance rugby, social aspect, and with that kind of community engagement. So it depends which day you come down. Probably more often than not, you'll find nice cold beer served though.
Sounds good. I'll be down as soon as rugby can start. Ross just touched on it, but Liz, how does the club engage with the local community, especially at sort of the age grade which you look after?
So obviously we draw on our kids from the schools across the area, and across the border as well, into, because we're so close to the A5 and Warwickshire. We have some people sort of get their passports and cross over and come and join us over at Hinckley. So a lot of word gets round at what we can deliver at Hinckley. We're really proud of the 50 plus coaches that we have in our mini junior section that have done all their rugby qualifications to deliver really high quality rugby to the kids, and make sure that the experience they have is an absolutely fun experience as well. Even on a cold, wet day, you can still see smiles on faces. And just before the Christmas break, we had some very innovative games being played by our younger ones. So there's a game called Rob the Nest, which is used quite a lot in mini rugby, and it was Rob the Carrots. So on our main first pitch, there was a nest of carrots, and the kids had to steal the carrots from the centre of the first team pitch. I'm just hoping that they've all been cleared away before we have too much bad weather. Otherwise, the first team pitch will just be a field of carrots next season. So it's a really good, fun, really committed team of volunteers, making sure the kids have a great rugby experience at Hinckley.
Brilliant. Sounds amazing. So Ross, I want to ask you, so as you mentioned, you sort of help out with the commercial aspects of the club. How was lockdown for the club? Anything adversely affected, revenues or things like that?
Yeah, I think local clubs up and down the country have got that commonality. What we're realising now is that the club, well, not what we're realising now, the club is built around having people in it. We can do a lot distanced, and we have done a hell of a lot distance, but without people playing rugby, kind of eating together, drinking together, it just isn't a rugby club. So whatever you try and do kind of please to people's better natures, and at best kind of exhausts people's kind of input. And where we're at now, we're kind of getting to that kind of fatigue stage that we've tried everything, but we've put a hell of an effort in. We started off kind of going into the first lockdown. The Sport England leveraged crowdfunder. We managed to pull in £25,000. We did a virtual cycle ride over 48 hours to every club in National 2 South, just to raise some funds. With the season being cut short, we normally use the kind of money at the back end of the season to make the repairs, pitch, road, changing room, showers. I mentioned we're famous for club dinners. I think we're also famous for our showers in National 2 South, or their lack of.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was. I think it made its way into Rugby World or something. Was it, Chris? Which paper referenced which team you don't want to play?
One of the Stourbridge players put our showers into their room 101, which I took some pride of, to be honest.
But it's pretty rich coming from Stourbridge. Didn't we get SARS when we went to their place from the all the lads developed PCP bath after the game, so it's pretty ironic. But yeah, we've leveraged crowdfunder. We've opened a cafe in one of the old spaces that we have. So where we couldn't serve dinners, we were doing Sunday takeaways to the local community, and we ran a cafe in between lockdowns. And what we could do, we ran a kind of drop-in cafe service. We've started with a mini. It's called the Hornet Draw. So every month, all members pay kind of small little ticket to join the Hornet Draw. And they have the benefit of watching me try and draw virtual numbers out of a hat every month. It's going to be done this Saturday. It's actually we're going to give away £1,000. But over the period of lockdown, I think we've given away close to £8,000 or £9,000 back to the club members through fundraising. So we've done a lot, really, and it's been built on volunteers. But we are kind of getting to that stage now where it is just fatigue setting in. If you can't get back to a club and play, there's only so much else you can do.
Yeah, 100%. There's not much you can do. Neil, tell us a little, anything you want to expand on that, the volunteers and everyone that's put in the hard work over the last few months to get something, keep the club going.
Yeah, I mean the club does rely a lot on volunteers and tradesmen giving their times up free. Our chairman's very good at conning local tradesmen down there to give up their time. So yeah, we was down there last week or the weekend before, cleaning up, putting new gravel down and all sorts of things. So it's a never-ending job down there, volunteers, and they all do a great job, as well as obviously the coaches, volunteers and things like that. But yeah, we wouldn't survive without the volunteers doing the little jobs, doing the maintenance, supporting the players, and we are a very good club in that respect. We put in a lot of time. The place does look nice, and we have to. When Bobby's not on, we have weddings in the clubhouse, so we do have to make it look nice. The area look nice. Obviously, we want to make it look good for our members as well. So, we're very good for volunteers in that respect.
Definitely. Back to the playing rugby. Chris and Scott and Liz. We've asked a few clubs this as I've been recording these, especially at the start of lockdown, that they were worried about players not returning because of the pandemic, and either they've just come to the end of their rugby cycle, or they have fears or anything about catching anything or whatever. Has there been anything from any sort of playing members that might suggest that they're not going to play again?
From a senior perspective, not really. I mean, and this is where it comes back to trying to provide an experience which is appropriate for the members you've got and the mindset of the members at the time. And we've had to undergo in the last 6 months quite a radical shift. We finished the season third in National 2. We were potentially pushing on for a promotion spot last year. Even when we started training in July, we were thinking, all right, well, we're going to be slightly delayed, but we'll probably be playing by October, November. So you were kind of starting a normal pre-season. But when it became clear that was an option, we just had to undertake quite a significant mindset shift where we focused on participation, we focused on engagement, we focused on enjoyment, and we focused on putting an offering in place which was appropriate to where the players were. So yeah, we've had a group of players who have wanted to keep engaging but have been nervous about doing so, whether it be because they're self-employed, whether it be because they had partners who were expecting children, and a whole variety of other reasons, elderly relatives, they live with them, whatnot. So that's where it comes back to making sure that we've been running sessions through using the whole varieties of Ready for Rugby touch competitions, ensuring we're adhering to all the appropriate guidelines, ensure that we're not pressuring people to attend when they might not necessarily feel comfortable doing so. All of that stuff has, I think, helped us retain the vast majority. And to be honest with you, whenever we start playing again, and let's face it, that's probably now looking much more like September, if we're being really honest about it. The only players who I would be worried about losing might be those who have started picking up additional work and additional income at weekends, and you can't begrudge anybody that, because everyone's got to make a living. So I think from a playing point of view, I think we're as strong as it's possible for us to be at this point, if I'm really honest with you.
So same question to you, Liz. From an age grade perspective, have you had any sort of inclination from people that they might not return?
We've been incredibly lucky, I think, really. I don't think anybody thought we'd start the season as normal in September when we did.
Sure, yeah.
And we had the numbers. We've had new people join us from other clubs. So everybody's thrown their hats in the ring, put their hands in their pockets and paid up their subs and everything else like that to want to come down and join in as much as they can. Our parents have been amazingly tolerant of the sort of stop-go scenarios that we've been having to deal with as we've moved through the rugby roadmap of what we can and can't do. We took a decision before Christmas to, although we could play external clubs, we decided, no, let's protect our rugby family and keep it in-house, shall we say. So we've been really lucky that people have still remained committed to coming down to the club. We could have lost so many to other sports who had taken a different tact. And it's a constant challenge with rugby in losing kids to the other shaped ball, shall we say. So that's a constant challenge, but because of what we offer the kids and even the use of social media, our coaches did a great thing of sort of giving them challenges when we've been in lockdown so the kids could still engage with their teammates. I've had coaches where we're allowed to go out and delivering prizes to the best number of catches or number of throws and things like that. So we've used lots of different ways to keep engaged with everybody through the entire process. And we came up with a bit of a blinder. Now, I can't remember whose idea it was. And it was absolutely wicked and engaged the whole club. Was an inter-house competition, which we divided the entire club into 4. Spreadsheet champion, Mr. Campbell, formulated a schedule of games to be played and scores on the doors and everything else like that. But that really boosted things actually when we did that. I think that must have been October, end of October, I think it was, we did that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Last weekend of October, and then we did the challenge, we did the running challenge in the 3rd week of November, I think, to add to it.
So tell us a little bit about that. Go
on, Chris.
So yeah, it was like Liz. I think it was one of those ideas which developed organically through lots of conversations, with people. So yeah, we split the whole club up into these 4 houses, and then they played ready for rugby competitions or fixtures within the appropriate age groups. Within that, which has created no rule league table. And the initial plan was to run 3 rounds worth of that. So 1 at the end of October, 1 in November, 1 in December. Of course, we never got any further than round 1 at this point. But that was the first time in any club I've ever been involved in where you had the whole club from from the littlest members up to the oldest members, walking rugby, ladies, touch, everything included in one competition. And then we extended that in November, when we weren't able, obviously, to do any rugby, to do a running challenge, which, to be honest, we kind of just came up with as well. Let's stick this in. Let's see if a few people do a few miles and they score points for their houses. And it went crazy. We had about 300 different people submit scores to that. To the point where we were worrying about whether the running would overtake the rugby in terms of the importance of this competition. So, but it shows what we were doing doesn't really matter. It shows that people were engaged with what we were doing, and we were just doing anything we could to keep the rugby club at the front of their mind.
Sounds amazing. What a great idea. What a superb idea. So I guess also, Neil, the same question to you about players not returning, or players decided to retire. As a member of sort of the vets, do you see that vets rugby can survive this?
No, well, yeah, I think it can survive, and it will survive. Sorry. Obviously, myself, I'm getting a bit closer to not being able to play, so I need as many years as I can. And this was promising to be my big season this year, and get away from it. No, in fact, the older lot are chomping at the bit to get back, to be honest. We will all be back, and we'll all be back for again. And we have some virtual beers now, and we ran our own little competition as well within the Hunters. We had to put in a drinking competition via Zoom, so that went well. I gained a point for the team, so there you go. Ross didn't race to add. Ross couldn't do it, so.
I did running, Neil. I did running. You didn't even run the bath. You just drank.
I'm pint in 3 seconds, though, Roscoe.
You did, yeah.
So Scott, so obviously the season is curtailed now. What do you expect from 2021 to 2022 from a first team perspective?
Well, firstly, we need to make sure that we'll be able to do what we want to be able to do in sort of July, August pre-season. You know, ideally we can get back to that and just start again, start afresh. I know the guys are keen to play, but I think the guys are, you know, you don't realise what the social element is on Thursday as well. Even though it's cold and it's 0 and it's wet, you know, having a shower and then having a beer in the club rooms afterwards, you don't know realise how much you miss it and how good it is for the soul, really, just hanging out with your mates. And I think that's firstly, I suppose it's been quite a good thing, because that's what you sort of sometimes take that for granted. And I know myself, and I know a lot of the guys I've spoken to and coaches as well, that, you know, really missing a bit of that camaraderie, and also just the competitiveness of playing with your mates and trying to get one over who you're up against on the weekend, and just the competitive nature. And I know that I've missed that. I've had, you know, the competitive, pretty much a game on Saturday through winter for the last sort of 30 years, and to look forward to, and not having that, it leaves a bit of a hole in your life. So ideally we're getting back to normal, but I think more pressing is what we're going to do for the rest of the season, or start of this next year. So we've got a call with the coaches on Monday to, as Chris said, to work out what we're going to do with the engagement process, how we're going to train, what we're going to do, because I don't think we don't just want to park everything and look forward to next year. We need to just, obviously we'll be entertaining all ideas and trying to work out what is the best way. We'll also engage with the players, see what they want to do, but we're just boxing on, try and retain all the players that we had signed up for this year, and just pack our bags and hopefully bring on 21-22.
Yeah,
Sean, there's a real challenge, Sean, I think, for clubs like ours who play at National 1 and National 2 at first team level in 2 areas. One is the fact that hosting rugby games costs money, and I'm not necessarily just talking about paying players here. I'm talking about opening the clubhouse, the work on the pitches, the staff. There's a lot of costs that go into it, which means that behind closed doors is not financially viable for anyone to run. But secondly, because we're very fortunate, we play at a good level. Even if we could play behind those closed doors games, there's very few teams we'd be able to play. So even when, obviously, Leicestershire has now moved into Tier 4, but when we were in Tier 3, that didn't really help us because we could basically play Leicester Lions and Loughborough Students. That's it. Whereas the lower level clubs who are playing at level 6s and 7s have got the potential to viably run something because there's enough of those clubs around. And that's a real headache for the clubs at level 3 and level 4. And that's not exclusive to Hinckley. That's all level 3 and level 4 clubs. But that's a real headache we're all going to have to try and overcome before we can all get back to playing.
So what, in that case, what are you looking from the national leagues or the RFU to help support you and support everybody else in the same situation?
It's very hard, and to be fair to both the RFU and the NCA, National Clubs Association, who govern level 3 and level 4, I think they've done as good a job as they possibly could do. The biggest problem is the travel regulations within the tiering system. Until clubs are allowed essentially free movement of travel within the tiers, National League Rugby cannot get back off the ground. It's as simple as that, really.
So how does that? I know you're not necessarily playing in it, but the national league cups that are happening at some point. Does that, with the travel sort of restrictions, stop that from happening? I know it doesn't really affect you because I don't think you're playing in it, but for other clubs, it would be, this is their only opportunity to have some rugby, and they might not get it.
Well, yeah, if in the NCA Cup, which we are entered into, as it stands. Well, we definitely can't now because we're all in Tier 4. My daughter's come to say hello. Basically, until we're at the point where either you're allowed to travel within Tier 3 or we'll get moved down the tiers, unfortunately, that competition just can't happen, and we all want it to. We're all desperate for it to. But the tiering system does mean it's very, very challenging right now.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel, as they keep saying.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll get some sort of rugby. If another question on that then, Chris. Sorry. If everything was, crystal ball, when everything was to be blown over in 5 weeks' time, it's not going to be, but in 5 weeks' time, and then in 4 or 5 weeks after that, they say we're ready to go, we're ready to play this competition. How prepared can you be?
That's a great question. I mean, at the moment we can't train, and so we can't train for as long as we're in Tier 4. We can probably get to the point of playing within, say, 4 or 5 weeks, but we've got to be very conscious of the fact our players have done no contact in nearly 12 months.
Yeah,
and that's going to take time to recondition their bodies. And this is tough stuff they're playing in. You can't just drop back into them. I mean, Scott and Ross will be able to answer it better than I do, and I'll let them answer that because I've got my daughter. But I'll let you guys answer that side of things.
I think dropping back in, as you say, playing, because the new rules that they've got will be a lot more running because there's no scrums and there'll be a lot more on-feet activity. So that's probably going to mean a lot, potential for hamstrings and all that sort of stuff. And considering guys, we're not allowed in gyms and, I think, some guys are not going to be in the same shape. And I'm not sure that, there's going to be no scrum, so there's going to be no issue with the shoulders and the necks, or less issues with that. But there's going to be an increase in niggly injuries, I'm sure. But I think, like anything, if you give everyone a choice, they're going to want to play. But the championship's meant to be scheduled to kick off, I think, in the start of March. So that could be a goal for us to start at the same time and effectively halve the competition that what we were planning on doing. So instead of playing 2 rounds, we maybe play 1, and then we go from there. But yeah, like Chris said, I'm pretty sceptical, because as long as there are going to be areas in Tier 4, which probably will be for a while, it's going to be a struggle. I think we're going to be stuck with the option of playing friendly games if we want to, which I think we may take up. But I think we would only do that if we're at a place that the club, it's got to be beneficial for the club and for the player. So if we can sell a few beers ideally and make a bit of money, and even if it is socially distanced, or even break even just to get the members in. We obviously don't want to be doing anything that's going to cost the club money, because we've already been through a pretty rough time.
But that's where at the moment there are a lot of clubs because a lot of sports clubs have done a really good job of moving themselves from just being your sports clubs to all to small businesses in them, to businesses in themselves, and that's fantastic most of the time. But that's when you look at someone like Ross, from when he's trying to essentially sell the product across the board. At what point does it become viable for us to run it? Because when it does become a business, you are having to think more than just about 15 players running out on the pitch at 3 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's like Chris said. There are the level that we now play at, and then many other clubs in Nat 1, Nat 2. It's a physical level. Lads are committing their bodies to it, and therefore we, as a club, we have to provide physios. We have probably one of the best physios, head of physio on team in it. Luckily, that we've had for years, but that's a resource you have to pay. So then the clubs start cutting back on. Okay, well, we can play a game of rugby, but the lads aren't going to have a physio. They're going to have the stuff that me and Neil had, a bucket of sponge in the corner. It's just going to be detrimental all round. But for me, I think the NCA and the RFU need to either crap or get off the pot. If they want, they can't just keep kicking it down. They either need to say, look, it's mothballed, shut us down for everything below Premiership, Championship until this date, or they say, look, we're going to put a cup on, and the RFU open the coffers, and they say, look, we're going to roll out rapid testing and get some sort of kind of confidence back in that you can do rapid testing for your 60 players on a game, 60 players and coaches on a game day to get that cup in. You can't have this constant middle ground. Like, realistically, at the minute, I don't think anyone that's sat in a Tier 4. I mean, we had this conversation this morning. We kind of around youth rugby can go back to training on Sunday, but we're in Tier 4. That, to me, just seems such a clattered message halfway down the middle between the RFU and the government. I just don't see how that overlaps, and it's hard for everyone. Certainly for a kind of grassroots rugby club that's run on volunteers. Businesses in the hospitality sector, it's their business to try and make it work, and they're struggling. We're a bunch of volunteers that have day jobs, and trying to digest that into a plan is just it comes harder and harder.
Yeah, it's a tough period, and hopefully by the time September comes around, we might be in a better position.
Yeah,
that actually we can allow people to back in our clubs, and matches can happen. Because without it, if we don't have it, we're going to lose it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So finally, then, I really appreciate your time. I will go around the table. I'll ask everyone this for one hope for grassroots rugby, or the club, and one fear for the next 12-month period. Ross, we might as well start with you. Give us your thoughts.
So just the hope is that a lot of clubs come out of it with new ideas and new strengths that can either be shared or developed. Liz mentioned we've landed with this inter-house thing now, where any new member gets put in one of the 4 houses, very much Harry Potter style. But we're going to carry that on, and we wouldn't have got to that point. And it will help down the line when our age groups are struggling for fixtures. They can coaches speak to coaches. So I just hope that ingenuity that other clubs will be doing their own things can carry on, and it doesn't just get left by the wayside. And then fear is, for the love of God, I hope that scrums and mauls aren't permanently abolished. I've got a sneaky feeling people like Chris Campbell and co will be lobbying hard to get scrums and mauls removed from the Premier game.
Will never happen.
I will, mate. Chris loves them.
Neil, we'll come to you. Give us your hopes and fears for the next 12 months.
Well, obviously, I hope everybody's staying safe and looking after themselves. But yeah, no, I think if we can keep the numbers we've got and bring the numbers up a little bit, then I think we'll got through it in a fight, both in the financial way and also in playing side. The fear I have is that this goes on longer than we all think. We did do one run, we did do. I think this is here to stay, and like I said, without scrum, I'm knackered. So
You and me both.
And the driving more. That's the main thing.
You and me both. Thank you, Neil. And Chris.
I mean, the hope is the same as everyone. Is that we're back out on the field. We've got people playing, but more importantly than that, we're playing at Leicester Road in front of close to 1,000 people, which is what we get for the big games. And it's a proper feel to that Saturday afternoon, which everybody is missing. You know, it's been coming up. It's been 9 months now, I think, since we had the first team fixture. So that's ultimately what we want to get back to. In terms of fears, actually, my only fears that start to come in now is if we were looking at not being able to start playing in September, because actually, as a club, we've talked about a lot of the great things we've done. I'm really confident our player base will hold strong. As long as we start going in September. It's only if that were to not happen that I would really start to worry about the future. But you know what? Even then, I'd still back us as a club to be ahead of the vast majority of others because of the people that we've got involved. Because that's what a rugby club is, isn't it? It's not, you know, we've got really good facilities, but that's great. But it's the people who do the stuff that make a rugby club and keep the whole ship running.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Thank you for that, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, probably echoing what I said before. I was hoping to get back to normal, back to sharing a clubhouse with your mates and the club members, and then obviously doing, you know, all the stuff that comes along with rugby. It's not just playing rugby; it's everything that comes. And that's why we all picked it up. You know, that's why I picked up a ball when I was 5. So you know, nothing's changed. Obviously, we've got stuff to do on the field, and we've got, you know, games to win, etc. But the whole feel of the club is again what attracted me to Hinckley in the first place. So that's what I'm hoping for, and also hoping that no clubs, you know, have to close down or whatever, you know, or regress, or you know, I hope that every rugby club can come out of this, whether that's with the help of other clubs or with the RFU or whatever. So my fear probably is probably the young players. Actually, I had a chat with the Leicester Academy coach today, and you know that he's got some kids that have been injured for a while, and they haven't played a game of rugby for 2 years because they've been injured, and now they, you know, struggling. I think they've had one game that they've been able to play, and you know, those are the lads that, you know, that are meant to be growing and being nurtured, and they're the ones that are, you know, probably, I mean, everyone's missing out, but they're the ones that are, you know, probably that, you know, us old fellas can crack on and play whenever, and you know, more of the net, even our players, you know, we're all trying to grow them, but at the end of the day, that we're at our level. But those next ones that are the cream of the crop across the country are just not getting a chance. And yeah, I feel for them.
Definitely. And finally, Liz, thanks for that, Scott. Liz, give us your hopes and fears for the next 12 months.
I hope that we can manage to play some form of rugby and keep the kids playing rugby. We're in a really fortunate position in age grade, rightly or wrongly, that whatever tier we're in, kids are still able to play rugby, and that's really important for their physical and their mental health. When you see them back on the pitch and everything else like that, you know you're making a massive difference, giving the parents some respite as well from kids who are like coiled springs. So I'm just hoping that we can keep trying to deliver some form of rugby until we can get back to whatever the new normal is. And my fear is when we do get back to the new normal, whatever it is, as I say, is that the great British weather doesn't then scupper it completely. Because before we went into this pandemic, we'd had like the worst winter of weather for I don't know how many years down at the club. The pitches were really suffering and everything else like that. And then to have this, and you're like, please give us a chance. Just give us a chance. Have some nice weather so we can actually, when we can go back, we can crack on it and get the kids playing and back engaged in the game.
Yeah, perfect. That's a perfect way to end. Thank you all for joining us. Chris, let everyone know where they can find out more about Hinckley.
Yeah, various forms. So just Google Hinckley Rugby. Will take us to our website at Hinckley_Rugby. On Twitter, Facebook page is Hinckley Rugby Club, and I don't do Instagram, so Ross will have to say what our Instagram page is. I don't understand Instagram, so someone else will have to tell you that one.
Go on then, Ross.
It's just that Hinckley Rugby Club on Instagram, but Facebook. I mean, we've got a picture page where you can get us or contact us through our Facebook page as well, which is at Hinckley Rugby.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you for joining us tonight, Ross, Neil, Chris, Scott, and Liz from Hinckley Rugby Club. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for everyone that's been watching. Don't forget to visit rugbystore.co.uk, use the promo code FYB Pod for 10% off. Everything, boots, shirts, kit, all sorts. So go and do that. Once again, thanks guys for joining us, and we'll see you down the road. Cheers.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Cheers.